All right, let's get started. All right, I want to welcome all media today for Super Bowl 55 media availability with Coach MJ. She's our assistant strength and conditioning coach. We will get started. First question will come from Lindsay Jones.
Okay, this is our first one, so we're figuring out how this platform works. Hi, MJ. I hope you're doing well. I was hoping you could maybe kind of talk us through the couple of seasons that you and Coach Locust have had together in Tampa, and maybe what, we've talked to Coach Arians a lot about kind of his commitment to diversity, but what does that actually mean in practice for your hiring process, and then what it's been like actually on the ground working?
Sure. Hey, Lindsay, nice speaking with you. The biggest thing I think is for organizations to implement a big pool of, people to, welcome into their coaching process. And so being with Coach Lowe the last 2 years, we've been afforded the opportunity to work under Coach Arians and the Glazer family. And they've really opened up the doors for us and given us this opportunity to embark on a successful season this year.
Next, we'll go to Nate Davis.
Hey, Coach. I heard that you've got I've seen previous interviews that you've got a PT background, and that you were partially hired because you bring a different approach that supplements maybe your basic strength and conditioning program. Can you give us examples of things you brought to the Bucs that maybe were a different way of thinking, and maybe just things that the players have really responded to?
Yeah, sure, Nate. So, all of our coaches, we have 5 strength and conditioning coaches, and we each bring something different to the table. My physical therapy background allows me to kind of hone in on movements or assessments that we see with these guys that will target things that they need individually in order to make them most successful on the field. And that's our primary goal, is how do we get this player to excel at their craft. And we've been able to use, I guess, my background and the background of the other assistant strength coaches to really drive that and hone in on that matter.
Any example of a particular player that was helped by that, maybe in a way he didn't expect?
If HIPAA wasn't a thing, I'd share that with you.
Next, we'll go to Ian Rappaport.
All right. You can hear me, right?
Yep. How you doing, Ian?
Good. How are you?
Great.
I wanted to talk about Antonio Brown. Posted on his social media that he is running on an anti-gravity treadmill, which was to me a little surprising that he's sort of still doing that. I was wondering if you could kind of discuss where he's at with his knee and his preparation for this Sunday.
So that's a good question for the training staff. I'm not in the training room.
Okay, I just didn't know from like a physical therapy recovery standpoint.
I mean, if we're just looking at anti-gravity treadmills, period, you can ask me a question in that regard if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, this actually does, while I have you, might as well. This actually does come up a lot. Is this a, doesn't have to be AB specific, but is this a regular part of training and getting guys ready, or is this something that is just recovery?
No, so it's a good progression for someone who hasn't been running or wants to decrease load on their joints. And the anti-gravity treadmill allows you to kind of gauge how much percentage of body weight is being applied at that particular session. So you could go anywhere from 20 or 30% of your body weight to 80% of your body weight, depending on where that person's at, to decrease amount of stress on the joint. And so it's a good progression to go from, let's say 80% to 60% and then onto the field, so that they're still getting their cardio and still maintaining their level of cardio before they have to go back. If
Next,
that
we'll
answers
go
your question, Ian.
Next, we'll go to Mari Fayel.
Hey, MJ, I was curious what Sunday night was like for you. I mean, who, like right after the win, who was the first person that maybe you just had a moment with? And obviously coming back from the airport and seeing all the fans waiting outside for you all at the gates, and obviously all the cars going through with coaches and players and staff. Just what was that night like for you, if you can describe that for me?
It was amazing. So the first person I went up to was Anthony Paroli, our head strength coach. Him and the rest of our staff, we've been, preparing for this moment. And I believe that, any team is preparing to, win each game and then follow through with their championship, their conference championship, and then eventually the Super Bowl. So I really took my time to kind of look around and embrace that moment. I was really proud of our men for that performing the way they were performing that night, and that win was great on all ends.
And then when it came, I imagine that it was hard for it to kind of set in that moment, but when did it finally hit you that you're like, we're going to the Super Bowl? Like, this is actually happening?
Sure. Probably 2 or 3 days after. I do drive by the stadium every single day to come into work, but it didn't click until a couple of days after. And we're not going to be happy to just be there. We want to win this game, win this.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Joseph with the New York Post.
Hey, Maral, how are you?
Good, Joe. What's going on?
Not much. I read that your mom's journey was a big inspiration for you as far as breaking down barriers. Can you talk about what she went through kind of has pushed and inspired you?
Yeah, she's shared short stories with me growing up about the lack thereof opportunities that she had, and it's quite the journey for her to not be able to attend sporting events or have as many opportunities as I do. And for her and my father, it was really important to kind of lay out all the opportunities for my brother and I to excel in whatever it is that we wanted to do. And so to watch my mom put a smile on her face every day, and both my mom and my dad, they're both as part of this as much as I am. They've really pushed the envelope and did whatever they could to afford me the opportunities to whether it was sports or school, to kind of embrace each of those journeys. So watching my mom, and she always had a smile on her face, but I know she was grinding like hell.
Next, we'll go to Jose Rodriguez.
Thank you. Yeah, Coach, on that same line, I just wanted to ask you, what does this mean for you to represent this team in such a big stage, and not only the team, but yourself with your story as an immigrant story from your family, to be at the Super Bowl and be an example for so many people in the country and overall around the globe. Thank you.
Thanks, Jose. It it really is it really is a special opportunity that I have, and I'm grateful for a head coach and an organization that is willing to open up their doors, not because of my race or my gender or any of that. And so I think it's just important to continue to work hard and bring forth the skill set that you have for whatever organization it is, and make sure you do your best. I do hope that my story does help other people similar to myself to continue to push forward and create those opportunities for themselves.
Next, we'll go to Luke Easterling.
Hey, Coach. In any year, obviously, it's extremely difficult to get all the way to the point where you guys have, and now with the chance to play in the Super Bowl. But obviously, in this season, so many different challenges about the way you guys have to go about your jobs on a daily and weekly basis. If you could just reflect on that, what were those challenges? How much different was it? And how much, does it add to kind of that, oh my gosh, we pulled this off, to have to go through a season like you guys just did to get there?
Sure. So we prepared like crazy starting in March with our virtual off-season workouts, and we knew in the back of our heads that we have to be the best prepared within our facilities, and just having the right plan and program in place so that in the case that things do change and protocols do change, which they did, it wouldn't be like we were going around with our heads cut off or anything like that. So I think we did a really good job. Anthony really always looks ahead of things and makes sure that we're the best prepared that we can be. And so when those changes did come, when those COVID protocols changed, it wasn't that altering. And I don't feel like our athletes saw, or our players saw a big change because we were prepared.
Next, we'll go to Jim Cian.
Hi, Maral. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hey, Dan.
Yes. I work in the Pace University Athletic Department. I have a two-part question for you.
Sure.
I guess my first would be kind of, how can you kind of put into perspective, being part of this, surge of women in the NFL, and, including Coach Locust and a few other coaches in the league, and also, Sarah Thomas, who'll be one of the refs of the Super Bowl. And secondly, of course, do you have any messages for your Pace women's basketball crew?
Oh, for sure. So, I feel extremely blessed to have this opportunity. And I know that Coach Lowe, and I'm sure Sarah, feel the same way. I do look forward to the day that it's no longer newsworthy to be a woman working in the pros or making the Super Bowl, for that matter. I hope we get to a point where all people are afforded equal opportunities to work in professional sports, because there are a lot of great qualified coaches out there. Again, I've said it before, it doesn't matter your gender or your race, your ethnicity. So I'm proud to work for a head coach like Bruce Arians and be part of an organization like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where all of the characteristics of gender, race, equality, all that stuff doesn't matter, and they're looking to hire a qualified person. And for my Pace women's basketball team, I'm sorry they didn't get to play this season, but they're a big reason for why I'm here today, and Coach Carrie Seymour and Katrina Blow are a big reason for that.
Next, we'll go to Brooke Pryor.
Hey, MJ, you mentioned the idea that you look forward to the time when it's no longer newsworthy to have, a woman coaching and something like that. And it's kind of crazy. You aren't the first woman to coach in the Super Bowl,
Right.
second after Katie. What is your relationship like with the other female coaches in the league? And how do you guys support each other knowing that it is such a small group? I mean, do you have a group chat? How do you kind of lean on each other during all of this?
Yeah. So to your point, Katie was the first first woman to be in the Super Bowl last year. And so I was excited, I was like, oh, Katie dealt with all that stuff already. We don't have to, but that's not the case, and that's okay. I don't necessarily have a big group chat, but I am friends with Sam Rappaport and Jennifer King, and obviously Lo, because we work together. But whenever my first time at the combine was last year, and I had the opportunity to meet all of them, and it was a symbiotic relationship, and it was smooth and effortless. But at the end of the day, they're still coaches for the opposing team, so I won't speak to them until after the season.
And next, we'll go to Teresa Walker.
With that, what got you to this point to be in the NFL? I mean, your PT background, et cetera. What was the pipeline that got you on the radar to be hired in this position? And was working in the NFL something that you'd ever thought of before you had that opportunity?
Yeah. So, my name was being circulated through other major, other professional sports, and in the NFL, it hasn't been, there aren't many PT strength coaches or strength coaches who are also PTs. And so it was a newer entity that I guess they were looking for. And I think it's definitely an area that is needed, and we see a difference here. Well, I'm sorry, what was your second part of your question?
How you ended up in the NFL, when you were having interest from these other major leagues, what drew you particularly to the NFL?
Yeah, so I, from when I was in high school, I was training with football players up until, past when even during PT school. And so I've always enjoyed the grind and the dedication that these athletes had to, getting stronger and faster and putting in the work without being babies about it. And I've, basketball and football were both two of my top priorities. And, in sports in general, you never know when those opportunities are going to come. And I was fortunate enough that the Bucks had an opening.
Next, we'll go to Chris Shield.
Hi there, MJ. It's Chris here from the UK. Can you hear me?
Yes. How you doing, Chris?
Very good, thanks. I'm speaking to you from MTV UK, working with the NFL. So just in a nutshell, for the UK viewers, what is your background, as in what did you study to get where you are? And can you give any advice to young girls and boys, men and women who are wanting to get into coaching?
Sure. So I have an undergraduate degree in biology and an emphasis on microbiology. And after I did my bio degree, I went into physical therapy school and got my doctorate of physical therapy. And within that whole process, I was shadowing strength coaches and training and doing education to separate myself from, others. And so, the message I have for folks who are looking to coach is continue to separate yourself from the majority and keep digging in deep and finding those organizations that are looking to hire someone with your background.
Next, we'll go to Hannah Wilkes.
Hi, MJ. Hannah here from Sky Sports NFL in the UK. Just to follow up, because you've spoken so brilliantly about being a female coach in the NFL and not wanting it to be a big deal. Hopefully, we're not too far away from that. But for us over here in the UK, it still is a big deal, I'm afraid.
Sure.
What I want to know, though, is, when you look at the likes of yourself and Laurie working together, the Bucks are the only team with more than one female coach. Do you think other head coaches and other organizations need to be working harder to find female coaching talent? Is it out there and it just takes that little bit extra to find people like yourself?
Yeah, for sure. And I know that there's programs set in place and internships available, and not just for women, but for groups of people who are looking to coach. And there are coaches out there besides Coach Arians who are, affording these opportunities. And, we need to continue to have organizations and coaches, head coaches willing to have these opportunities available. And, keep seeking it out. Keep, like I said earlier, separate yourself from the majority.
Next, we'll go to Pete Ruff.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, Pete.
How you doing? Pete Ruff with News 12 Westchester. I kind of want to piggyback with Jim and go back to your college days. What did you take from playing basketball at Pace? Learn throughout the years. You obviously were very competitive. And how did you apply that as a professional now? And then the follow-up with that is, what does it mean to be part of a team that's playing in, its ultimate championship game? If you could, please.
Sure. So, I had torn my ACL a year before I got to college. And for me, not playing wasn't in my journey or my path. And so I need to make sure that I did whatever I could to still earn that spot and that scholarship to play. And coming back from an injury is never easy, especially because, you're away from the game for a year. And so it even took me a year to get back. And that was a slow year, and you question yourself and still need to fight and push through. But outside of that, it was really both the mental, physical, and spiritual part of getting back to, my as elite level as I could have gotten. And, we went to the NCAA tournament 3 out of my 4 years there. Winning is, in my DNA, and which leads to your next question. We're obviously very fortunate, and we've had a great season, but we're not done. We still have another game to go, and we're continuing to prepare for to win the Super Bowl.
Next, we'll go to Grace Remington.
Hey, Maral. I was wondering, how did you first connect with Bruce Arians? Where did you guys meet? And just what were your first impressions of him?
Yeah, so Anthony Paroli, the head strength and conditioning coach, sought me out, and he was looking for a strength coach who was also a physical therapist. And he had, done his research and kind of vetted a number of applicants. And so I met Coach Arians on my interview here. And, he's got a great big smile, and was, his first question was, what can you bring to the table? And, I had laid it out there, and it was pretty seamless.
So where did you work with Anthony Paroli before?
I did not. He had gotten my name from someone in the NBA.
Hey, MJ, it's Carmen.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm just curious because I want to talk a little bit more about your physical therapy background. And you said that that's needed on these strength and conditioning staffs, even though it's not very widespread. Can you give me an example of, what that brings as far as it comes, or as far as it goes to like a player rehab? I mean, we saw just incredible comebacks this year, Vita Vea being the latest and greatest. So what component specifically does PT add to their rehab, and how does it, benefit them more so than just the standard kind of strength and conditioning procedures?
Sure. So it's less about the rehab side of it, where I come in. It's more about, hey, when training camp starts, let's do individual assessments on each player, kind of get an idea of how that player moves and how they work, and fine tune the intricate details. And because, elite athletes, they know how to go from A to B, and for us to kind of get them to the next level or make them feel their best, fine tuning some of the intricacies of their body and their movement will, allows us to do that and kind of program for them specifically. And that's been paramount, I believe, in our training program.
All right, that's all we have time for. Appreciate you taking the time, MJ.
Thank you. Have a good day.